that you stick to your applications as closely as you can. So in a circumstance where you've specifically stated you're going to serve a specific type of population. So, for example, if you said you were going to serve veterans and make sure the participants you're serving are women and minority veterans. Um, that way we can try and stay on task with exactly what it was that you said you were looking to provide. Um, and, as far as some of the expectations of our program, the expectation here is with the Office of Apprenticeship is that we are working towards preparing our participants for apprenticeship programs, but it's not mandated that all of our participants in NJ Build go into apprenticeship. What is mandated is that is it 75 or 80%? I keep getting all my programs confused because things are a little bit different. Lauren, you can jump in if you have that answer for me. Uh, I believe it's 75% of your participants have to obtain an outcome, and 75% are expected to complete the training. So, um, with that expectation that you'll have them either entering into full-time employment, making minimally $16 per hour, or enter into a registered apprenticeship. By registered apprenticeship, I mean registered through United States Department of Labor. Um, but ultimately those careers would be in the construction trades. Obviously the trainings obviously will be in the construction trades, and they have to be, and we ultimately will hopefully work towards um, the ultimate goal of NJ Build, which is to increase the number of qualified candidates from the population of women and minorities for work and positions within the construction trades. The definition of what construction trades are is a little bit confusing sometimes. So if you ever have questions or you have any concerns about whether or not the types of trainings you're looking to provide fit into those categories, always feel free to reach out to us, but please reach out to us before you start putting a lot of funding into something, and we can have those conversations out front. It really does help and benefit you so that we're not coming back and saying, yeah, we really can't fund that. I'd hate to have a situation where you've put funds forward and we're not capable of paying for it. So, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Me and my team, we are here available to you at any time. So we are on the same team. Nobody here is looking to treat you in any other way other than as a teammate in this process of trying to really um, ensure that we get qualified candidates to fill positions out there throughout New Jersey in the construction trades with women and minorities, and that a larger portion of the women and minorities in the state of New Jersey are um are capable of looking at those positions and really fulfilling the needs of those employers, and finding positions in those careers. So that's just some of the basic information I wanted to go over. Um, as of right now, you've all received your notice of awards. That notice of award is basically what allows for us to ensure that the funding is attached to your organization. It's set aside for your organization. Next steps in that process, Lauren and I will be scheduling calls with each of you. We're in the process of reviewing your budgets to make sure there are no unallowable costs or anything that we need to discuss with you. We'll send you an email if we have anything, and then we'll schedule a call with you if we need to make any changes or updates to those budgets. That'll probably come to you. That email will probably come to you sometime in the next week. So sometime by the end of this week or early next week, you'll get that email asking for a couple of dates and times that you're available in order to meet if we do need to make any adjustments to your budgets. But once those budget revisions and changes have been made, the next step in the process will be the contract process, where you'll go into the IGX database and complete your contracts. I'm going to go over that process right now with a user guide that we'll provide to you after the training so that you have it and you're ready. Please don't do anything in the contract process yet until we've completed our budget revisions, because we'd ultimately have to have you go in and redo them again. And I would hate for you guys to have to duplicate your work. Um, For some of you, you may be aware, we have another Women and Minorities in Construction NGO that is already available to the public. It became available last week on the 22nd. Um, so we are in the process of doing a second round of this grant. It's a busy time of year for us, so we're trying to kind of fit everything into a small little window of time, because we have a second. We just finished up a round of gains, a round of pace, a round of women and minorities. Now we're doing a second round of gains, a second round of pace, a second round of women and minorities. We have another grant coming out at some point in the next couple of months for NJ Build for women minority veterans, and then we'll also have one more grant program that comes out that's not competitive. It's going to go out only to those who've been recipients of our grant in the past. So that's it's a lot that's going to happen between now and June 30th, and that all has to happen between now and June 30th. So um, we'll be running around a little bit crazy in the unit, but we'll be able to help you in any way you need, and we'll make the time to have any discussions you guys need at any time. So please always feel free to reach out to us at the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address. Obviously, feel free to email me directly if you want, but that apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address comes to all of us at the same time, and it will hopefully help to ensure that you get contacted back quickly and more quickly than just sending one person an email. I am also copied on anything that goes directly to the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address. Okay, so with that, I'd like to get started on the presentation. What we'll talk about, what we'll go over in the presentation is the contract signing process, as well as the monthly activity and expenditure report process. So you'll be aware of what ultimately you'll be responsible for moving forward as far as submittal to us at the Department of Labor. The expectation of you is your grants here started on January 1st. We anticipate obviously very few of you having participants that have started right away on January 1st, but the process of recruitment, the process of getting your classrooms ready and your programs started, that should be what you're currently doing, and that'll be what you're reporting to us in your first month's reports. um, and ultimately, you'll let us know when you anticipate your first cohort of participants starting on those first couple months reports, so that we can track how you're doing and how things are moving forward. But we'll get into that once we get to the activity reports and the expenditure reports. Currently, first, right now, I'd like to show you and talk more about the contract signing process, because that'll be the very next step in what you're going to be working on. Okay. All right, so I don't really have to get into too much of this, but ultimately, uh, it's important for you to understand that the only person who's going to be eligible to sign off on the contract documents will be your authorized official. That's going to be the CEO, the chief official within your organization, who's the person who's eligible to sign off on any official documentation. Um, They'll also be listed in our IGX database as the authorized official. That's why we call it that in our spreadsheets. But that person is registered. We make sure they get registered during our application process, and at this point, that would be the person who will sign off on the contracts. It's also the person you designate as the CEO on your applicant information page within your applications that you submitted to us. So first steps for our situation here is that obviously everybody should be registered at this point. We've gone through that process with the application. But if there's a need for a registration, you would register by clicking on new user at this login website, and complete the new user. And then you'd have to email us at the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov and let us know that that person needs to be added to your organization and to your application. We can do that. It's just without knowing to look for them, we wouldn't do that. But in the cases where, with most of you, you'll already be registered, the web address for our IGX database is the same as it was for the application, njdol.intelligrants.com. As you see at the bottom, once you're there, you'll log in with the username and password that you used in order to gain access. If for some reason you forgot your password, I know it happens. There is a forgot password here. I will say that you can also email us at the unit and we can try and work with you to get that password reset real quick. Um, But in the end, you'll log in here. Once you enter your username and password, you click the login button, and it'll bring you into your dashboard. Once you're at your dashboard, you'll, in some cases, have your application right there in My Tasks. In your cases right now, because of some things that we'll have to be working on, it might not be there. I believe it's there right this second, but once we start making some changes to your budgets, we'll have to move it into statuses where we have to make so that we can make changes. But we'll put it back into a status where it'll be in your My Tasks right after that. If for some reason it's not there, you'll use that searches button at the top. And once you click searches, the top thing should be recent documents. You can click on that and you'll find your application. Um, if you don't have it in your recent documents for some reason, you can go to My Documents and you can search through it in My Documents. But I promise you, most of the time it'll be in your My Tasks and you won't have to be concerned with that. We're also actually working on a process where My Documents will be added to your dashboard so that you won't ever have to search for it. You can just go down to My Documents and it'll be right there. That'll hopefully be added in the next couple of months in the IGX database, but we're working on getting that completed. But initially, when you're going in to sign off on your contract, you'll find it in My Tasks. You'll click on the hyperlink under name, and that'll bring you into your application. Once you're at your application, sorry, I'm trying to add this person that just joined us. Once you're in your application, on the left-hand side in blue, you're going to scroll down to the section called Contract. Initially, you'll see the application information at the top, so all that stuff that you submitted in order to get this grant. But you'll scroll down and you'll find a section that has headed with Contract with a few pages listed underneath it. The first page that you're going to check and save will be your contract summary page. Once you click on the contract summary, this is what comes up. It'll look something like this. It'll ultimately have your organization's information on it, but you'll check this page and you'll click save. That's all you'll have to do. There's nothing on this page that you need to update or change. You're just verifying that everything on this page looks accurate to you, and then save the page. The federal and state funding sheet is something that we complete. You do not need to touch it. You do not need to go to it. You will not have a save button there. It's something that we do in order to designate what funding stream is used from the department for your grant. The next page will be your contract details page. Your contact details page is where you'll find everything from your deliverables to your reporting information. Your budget will have a link within there, but ultimately you want to check the sections within your contract deliverables and make sure they're accurate. The deliverables will pull directly from your deliverables page within your application. So exactly what you designated that you were going to serve is what's going to show up here. And then as you see under budget information on the right here, there'll be a hyperlink over to your budget summary, which will bring you back to the budget that you created, that we reviewed with you and made edits to make sure that all funding was allowable. So that's where you'll check that. Once you've completed review of all the sections within the contract details page, then you're going to want to have your authorized official, who's the only person that can do this, check the box down here at the bottom that says, by checking this box, you certify that you've read and agreed to all the terms and conditions contained in this contract, and then save the page. Once you save the page, it's automatically going to put your name and your title for that authorized official at the bottom of this contract. This is signing off on the contract, basically, is what this is. You save that page and you're done with this page, and that's it. Like I said, most of it pre-fills. The only thing you're doing is checking to make sure that all the information is accurate, checking this box, and then saving the page as an authorized official. The next page is called the Standard Assurances and Certifications page. This is something that you've all seen plenty if you've been grantees with the Department of Labor in the past, but this document has a lot of legislation within it. Most of these are federal legislations. You'll review it. You'll make sure everything makes sense. Once you've completed it, you'll scroll down to a section that you see here on the right where you'll enter the address for where your performance is where you're gonna actually provide services. If you might have multiple locations, but provide a primary location where services will be provided. If you have multiple locations, you check the box where it says if there are workplaces on file that are not identified, and then you'll check the box below that that's authorizing as the authorized representative, saying that you hereby certify that the application will comply with all the above certifications. Once you've done those things, you save this page. It will automatically populate with the name of the authorized official and their title again, and a date that the signature has been added to this page. And you've completed the standards assurances page. There's nothing else that you need to do. The final page or document that has to be completed is our general provisions. General provisions, once again, just like with the standards assurances, a lot of you have already seen these types of documents. They don't get updated all that often, but sometimes when a state or federal piece of legislation gets passed or changes, then we'll have some updates to this. This hasn't been updated in many years at this point, but ultimately you'll review through the general provisions. There's many pages to the document. Once you've reviewed all the information within this general provisions, you'll check the box at the bottom as the duly authorized representative of the organization, and then to certifying that all the information within the general provisions is that you're going to comply with all of them. Once you've checked that box, click save. It'll add your name and title and the date, and you'll be done with this document as well. So we ask that you go to the vendor information page and check the vendor ID number, but we've already verified with you and or checked with this system, and the only vendor ID numbers that we had in the system were the ones that are there. But you'll check the vendor ID numbers, make sure they look good. Um, and that's it. If anything needs to be changed, you can't change it yourself. Just email us and we'll review it and see if anything needs to be changed. But this vendor number is what is attached to your NJ Start account with Treasury. This is the account that tells us where to send checks, where to send payment to you on a monthly basis. So obviously it's important because we want to make sure your money gets to where you want it to be. But in most cases, we've already verified this information for you. And when you look at it, you'll see what we've chosen based on either direction from you or the fact that there aren't any other locations with Treasury that you've created at this point. So obviously the money would only be able to go to one place. Once these steps have been completed and there's a check mark next to all of the pages that we just showed you under contract in your menu, you'll scroll all the way to the bottom in that blue menu where contract was listed, and you'll find a section called status options. This is the same as you did when you were submitting your application. The only difference is now the statuses are going to be specific to the contract. So you'll choose contract negotiations, and that will submit your contract to us. We'll do a final review of everything, make sure everything looks accurate and complete. As long as it is, then we'll put it in place to submit to our administration so that we can get it signed off on by our commissioner as well. Um, Once you choose contract negotiations, you'll get this "Are you sure?" box. Please make sure you click OK if you're sure. If you don't click OK, it will not change the status. If you click cancel or X, it will leave it in the same status, and you will think that you submitted your contract, but you didn't. So please be sure to make sure that you click OK when that "Are you sure?" box comes up, because um, for whatever reason, the system is very concerned that you're not sure. I promise you, you'll see that a lot. Um, but at the end of the day, we'll get this stuff completed. It is a formality. It doesn't directly affect your ability to start services. It doesn't directly affect the ability for you to ensure that you're going to receive payment for services you're providing. The contract, it follows the notice of award because it ultimately allows for us to have something on file to show what the deliverables are and what it is that you're going to provide with the funds that we've allocated to you. So we'll get this process completed, and and once you submit that to us, there's really nothing else you need to do with the contract. As if we reach back out to you with a concern or with anything that we need you to update, um, then we'll send it back to you and have you do some stuff. But uh, it's highly unlikely that that'll be the case unless something really got broken somewhere in the process. All right, and that's the process for contracts. So what I now want to do is pull over the monthly activity and expenditure reports. All right, you guys can see this. I see some heads shaking up and down, so I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, so before I get started with these slides, I guess I'll open it up. Does anybody have any questions in reference to um, the contract process, what we discussed about in the contract section? I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but ultimately just know that that process will be your next step. Um, any questions? I unfortunately can't see your faces anymore, so okay, now I can. Sorry. All right, I don't see anything in the chat as far as questions, so I'm gonna take that as everybody's good and ready to go. Uh, feel free to unmute yourselves if you do have a quick question that you want to ask. I just want to make sure we don't get too far ahead of ourselves if necessary. So I'm going to move forward on the activity and expenditure reports with the expectation that the contract section made somewhat sense. Like I said, we'll send you the slideshow so you'll have that to use as a step-by-step process once we tell you your contract is ready to start going in and complete. Um, it's really not that difficult. I anticipate you'll find it rather simple to complete. So now we're on to the activity and expenditure reports. These are the reports that you'll submit to us monthly. Um, these reports will be due by the 15th of the following month. So since our grant started on January 1st, the expectation is that your first month's activity and expenditure reports will be started and submitted sometime around February 15th. Now, because we haven't gotten the contract process completed, it's likely that we might get those a little bit later this first month, but ultimately that's the expectation moving forward, just so you're aware. Um, you're always submitting the previous month's reports by the 15th of this month. And you'll be completing these every month of the 18 months that the grant contract is in place. Even if you don't have anything new to report to us, you'll tell us what occurred during the month, what's causing you to not have anything to report in some cases. Um, but ultimately, even an expenditure report you'll submit with $0 requested on a monthly basis. So we'll get into that a little more detail, but ultimately just know that these reports will be completed monthly by the 15th of the following month. And that's what this says. So I should have moved my page. So same as we had in our previous slideshow, the first thing that you'll do is you'll go to the njdol.intelligrants.com web address and you'll log in with your username and password. Once you've entered, you'll find um, your application in My Tasks. Sometimes if your contract hasn't been signed by us, it might not be in My Tasks. So you'll have to do a search to find it. Um, I'm hoping to be able, once you get your contract signed and submitted to us, get your contracts back to you quickly. But it all depends on how fast our administration's here moving with this type of stuff. And sometimes that's not as timely as I would hope it would be. But we'll work as quickly as we can to get them back to you. Um, but ultimately, just know that you should be able to find it in My Tasks on most months. And if not, then you'll use the searches button at the top. You can either click on recent documents and it'll show you your your application, or you can go to My Documents, do the drop down under type and choose NJ Build application. This is actually NJ Build. It would be Women and Minorities in Construction application for 2024. You'll choose that in the drop down, and it'll pull up the document that you created that's this year's application, and then you'll just click on the hyperlink under name. The best way for you to make sure you're in the right place is you'll see the type will list it as Women and Minorities in Construction Application 2024, and the fiscal year will say 2024. We use this same PowerPoint for all fiscal years. Once you click on the document and it brings you into the application, you'll see that you're at your application menu, your document landing page for your application. You'll scroll all the way down to the bottom in the blue menu on the left, and you'll find what's called related documents. Under the related documents section, you'll see a, a blue a blue box that you click on for initiate related documents. When you click on initiate related documents, this box will come up. You won't have to put anything in the top two boxes. You'll click on the drop down under available documents and you'll find the activity report. We're doing activity reports right now that is listed specifically for the month that you're trying to complete. So for you, you'll find your January 2024 activity report and you'll open it. Once you click that, it'll fill the box with it and you'll hit create. When you click create, it creates a January activity report, and that'll be where you'll start with the process of completing your activity report for January. You'll click agree and it'll create the document. And by creating the document, it'll also bring you right into the document. So it's just like when you initiate your application for the first time, you go in, you click on initiate a new document, it creates the application and it brings you in and you start completing your application. It's the same for the activity reports. It's just the activity reports are within your application because it's a sub document to your application, if that makes some sense, hopefully. If for some reason you just created your activity report today, but you weren't going to complete it and you weren't going to fill anything out, you can do that by creating it here. It is created. You don't have to do anything further. You could go out of Sage or IGX and come back to it tomorrow. When you log into your IGX database tomorrow, it'll be under My Tasks. You'll see your activity report under My Tasks because it's been created, but it hasn't been submitted. Until you submit it, it'll show up under My Tasks. Once you submit it to us for review, it'll no longer show up under My Tasks, if that makes complete sense. But once you see it in your My Tasks, you can click back on the activity report and it'll bring you right back to this right back into the forms menu for the activity report. So you click back on the document, or once you create it, you'll land at this document landing page. It'll be a first place you land. It's just general information about the activity report that you just started. You'll click on participant list. That's the first page that you're going to check and enter any information. If you don't have any participants, you don't need to enter any information here. Don't go to the page and save it if you don't have any participants yet, because it's not necessary. Leave it blank and you'll know it's blank because there'll be a blank box next to it with nothing in it. Okay. If you have participants that you've added to your program during the month, you'll click on the participant list and you'll add your participants. This is what the participant list page looks like. You can name the page. So if you have a specific cohort, you want to name it, you can name the cohort. Or you can, if it's a specific location where you're providing the training, you can enter that. You can name it anything you want. You don't have to name it, but you can. You'll enter the information about your participant here. And then if you have additional participants to enter, you'll click the plus sign that you see in the top right hand corner on this page. If you don't have any additional participants to add, you just click save and it will save the page. Okay. Only click the add button at the top if you need to add another page to add a different participants. The only reason you would do that is if the page no longer gave you a plus sign because you've added too many participants on the page already, or if you wanted to create a separate page for locations for the training, or you wanted to name the separate page as something different. You don't have to add a new page every time you're adding a participant. The plus sign adds a new participant to the page. Hopefully that's clear. All the information on this page is required except for the AOSOS number. You do not have to provide us with the AOSOS number. That is a number that directly correlates to our one-stop system, And if they were registered with the one stop, they would have an AOSOS number. It allows us to look up their registration with the one stop and look and see and make sure all their data is up to date there as well. But all the rest of these fields are automatically required. And if you save the page without adding that information, it will come back with an error telling you that there's some information missing. You'll notice the unique ID number section is blank. That's because it auto populates once you click save. Once you've completed entering all of your participants, you make sure you save the page. If you have to save button too many times, it's not going to hurt. So please use that save as much as you can. And once you've completed, then you can move on to the next page in the activity report, which is your quality partner page. Your quality partner page is where you're going to list any employers, whether they're apprenticeship or not programs, or your registered apprenticeship programs. There's a drop down under quality partner type. You'll choose the type of quality partner this is, and then provide us with all the information on who that quality partner is. The only field here that's not mandatory is the FEIN number. Everything else is a mandatory field on this page. If you have more than one quality partner, then you'll hit the plus sign and you'll add them. The reason you need to provide us with this information is you're going to have a placement page for each participant. That's going to be the next page I show you. But within that placement page, you'll list who you've placed these individuals with, whether it be with an employer or into a registered apprenticeship program. Um, and it references back to this page to see who the quality partner is. All right, so now you'll see at the participant list page has been completed and there's a check mark next to it. If you were to hover over participant list, it would show you all of the partners here, all the participants here. Um, you'll also notice the quality employer or apprenticeship page, they automatically get created. They automatically get created based on the participant lists that you created. Okay, so as soon as you create a participant on the participant list, it automatically is going to create a quality employer or apprenticeship page for each one of those participants. This way, you're not required to go in and do that. In past previous systems that we used for this database, for this report, you had to go in and create a placement page for each one of these individuals. The system now creates it for you. Um, You'll see that little arrow next to it. You'll hover over that and all the names of the participants will come up. If you have any new information for the participant, you'll open that page and enter any information. But I'll show you what kind of information we capture on the placement quality employer or apprenticeship page right now. So you'll see that it automatically populates with the participant name and the unique ID for the participant. If you have you'll click the drop down for participant progress and provide us with the progress of the participant. It's usually satisfactory or unsatisfactory. You'll provide us with the program enrollment date, and you will not provide us with the program completion date until they've completed. If they haven't completed the program, there's no need to tell me that they're going to complete on X date. We just need to know when. Once they've completed, then you'll enter the program completion date. 30-day retention will be only entered after they've completed the program. So it's 30 days after they've completed the training and 60 days after they've completed the training and had placement. So it's retention at their placement, not retention at their training program. So it's 30 days post getting a job that they've retained their job and 60 days post getting a job that they retain their job. You would only choose an exit reason if for some reason the person no longer was participating in the program and they had withdrawn from the program. You'll click on exit reason and you'll choose withdrawal or whatever their reasoning is. There's a couple of options there. But ultimately, by choosing exit reason, what you're telling us is the person is no longer participating in your program and has exited your program without completing anything. So basically means that they were unsuccessful in the program. The quality partner information. This is what I was talking about when I said you have to, it references back to the quality partner page. Under type of quality outcome, you'll choose whether it's employment at $16 or more an hour or a registered apprenticeship or whatever that outcome might be. And it'll automatically create a drop down menu under quality employer or apprenticeship. And you'll choose the employer from that quality partner page that's listed here. Once you choose that employer, um, then you'll enter the NAICS code for the industry, trade occupation, previously hourly wage, and their new starting hourly wage. If it's not that, if their outcome isn't that they received a job, you may not be providing some of this information to us. You provide us information based on what the outcome is. So same for status of apprenticeship with USDOL. If they don't enter an apprenticeship program, you won't enter any information in this box. Same for date of apprenticeship enrollment. You won't enter any information in that box if they don't enter into an apprenticeship. If they do enter in an apprenticeship, then you'll provide that detail. Oop. There's a requirement within the Women and Minorities in Construction grant that all participants receive at least one credential. This is where you'll provide that credential information. You'll type in the type of credential that was received, the number of hours of training that was received in order to complete the certification, and the date that the credential was received. If they receive more than one credential, you'll click the plus sign and add additional credentials below it. Um, Same with valuable documents. If any of your participants receive any valuable documents, like you help them obtain their driver's license or something like that, or you know, you would provide us with the details of what it is that the participants were able to obtain due to the fact that they were a part of your program. You can add multiples here again. So if you have additionals, you just click the plus sign and you enter in the additionals. Um, please make sure that you're saving this page throughout. You don't have to wait until you're done to click save. You can click save multiple times while on the page. Um, but please make sure that you save the page throughout, and that you make sure you save the page at the end before you move on to the next participant. You'll do this for every one of your participants if any information is needed to be provided. Initially, when you first add your participants, you'll probably only put in their progress and their program enrollment date. You'll enter in the rest of the information as time goes on, and as the program proceeds with your participants, um, and outcomes start to occur with those participants. Some of you have budgeted to provide stipends to your participants. So for any of you who have, there is a stipend recipients page. This page will have to be completed monthly. It will pull forward, as will the previous pages that I showed you. Everything pulls forward to the next month's report. So you don't have to re-enter all this stuff every month. You do it one time, and then it pulls forward to the next month and the following month and the following month, so that you can update the information on a monthly basis. It'll be the same for the stipends recipients page. You'll click on the drop down under name. It'll pull you a list. It'll pull up a list of all the participants on your participant list page. You'll choose the participant and enter the stipend cost that you provided to them this month. What's going to happen is next month, what you entered in this month will go into that cumulative cost category, and what you're entering into the stipend cost will always only be what the stipends were that you provided to them this month. Okay, does that make sense? Please make sure not to enter a person multiple times on the stipend recipients list, because ultimately it keeps track of how much you've provided to these participants for stipends. So it allows for you to easily track that you're providing your stipends appropriately. It also allows for us to be able to easily track that you provided your stipends appropriately to your participants. Also, once again, please make sure you're saving this page regularly. And if the stipend has been received by the participants, you'll check that stipend received box at the beginning. Most times the stipend received box is always checked. We would question you if it wasn't checked, because we are a reimbursement model. So we should be only giving you a reimbursement for stipends that you've already issued out to participants. So just something to keep in mind. But ultimately, you'll complete this page monthly based on the stipends that you provided that month. And that's really all you'll do, is update this monthly when new stipends have been provided, whether it be a new participant or an existing participant. If it's an existing participant that's already received a stipend, when you come in next month to do this report, you'll already see their name listed on the stipend recipients. If they're new and they've never received a stipend before, you'll click the plus sign and you'll add them to this page. Once again, always click save when you're done. The next page that needs to be completed is your dashboard. What you'll initially provide us with is your grant project director, who is the person who oversees and has oversight of all aspects of your grant. You'll provide us with a program status comment on a monthly basis. That is where your program is right now, what it is you did, what it is you're doing, why you're struggling with anything, if there's anything that you feel is necessary for us to know and understand. Always make sure you provide that to us in your program status comment. The demographics information automatically populates based on what you put on your participant information page, as well as the achievement columns in this next box. You'll enter a start and end date for your cycles. Uh, so cycle one starts on X date and ends on Y date. And then you'll want to make sure in your comments section for the cycles you provide us with what's in red here. So you must include the course name, description of the course, and an update to the activities that were received during the reporting month. Okay, so that's what you'll make sure you put into that comments section for each cycle. What you see on the right hand side here is it's at the bottom of our dashboard page, and this is more outcome based information. As outcomes are entered into the database, they automatically will populate in where you see the numbers and the dollar signs. You'll enter a comment next to any section where there's a number, or any section where there's information that you need to provide to us, so that we understand why it is that that's occurring, excuse me, or what occurred in order for that to occur. An easy explanation for that is if anybody is in that if a total number of participants not completing the program, you should provide us with a comment on exactly what it is that caused this participant not to complete. That way we can follow and understand that this is where you struggled, but you've done this in order to correct it, whatever it might be. Sometimes it's just, um, you thought somebody was a good fit for the program and they just weren't, but you want to make sure you provide us with that detail. Remember, these reports are all we have to work off of in order to know whether or not your program is in compliance, but also whether your program is successful and is working towards completion of the deliverables of the grant. So we will work with you to try and help you understand where you're struggling, what you need to do in order to maybe correct things, but mostly we use this just to track where you're at with the process. It's an 18-month grant, and we need to make sure that we're accountable to our administrators here when they ask why it is that anybody's struggling with something. We also will want to know that detail so that we can answer those questions without having to say, let me reach out to the grantee and find out. So if you provide us some of those details in these reports, it is very helpful to us, and it makes answering those questions much easier. If for some reason when you look at the data that's pre-populated on any of these sections and you say that's not right, I know that's not right because I entered the participants in and I entered the placement information in, reach out to us and we'll look into it. Sometimes there are database issues. If there are, we'll make sure they get corrected with our vendor who oversees the IGX database for us, and we'll get those corrected as timely as we can. Once you've completed the dashboard page and saved it, you've basically completed everything you need to do for your activity report. So you'll scroll down in the blue menu and find the tools section and click on document validation. You did this during the application process as well, but ultimately what this does is validates that all the documents that you needed to complete were completed and that they have no errors on them. If for some reason there was an error on a page, usually you'll see an exclamation point in that box that's next to the name of the page. But if not, when you click on this document validation, it will tell you if there's an error, and you can click on the actual form name and it'll bring you back to it so that you can correct the errors. Um, Once you've corrected the errors, come back here, do another document validation, and nothing should show up here, and then you can move on to the next step. The next step is the final step, which is the submittal of your activity report. You'll scroll down to status options. That's something you'll get very used to using in our database, because that's how you submit things to us. That's how you complete things when you finish doing something. You'll scroll down to the status options on the menu and you'll choose activity report submitted. Once you do, it'll ask you if you're sure. You'll click OK because you won't want to do this anymore and you'll be tired of looking at this report. Um, and then that'll submit it to us for review. If for some reason at this point you said, "Oh crap, I forgot, I wanted to go back and do this," you can click cancel and go back and do what you need to do. Then just follow the process again and go back to status options, click on application, activity report submitted, and click OK. So once you've done that, the activity report is completed for a month. You always should start out doing your activity report first. Some people don't listen to us, excuse me, and do their expenditure reports first. It's fine, whichever way you decide to do it. But know from our program technical assistance staff, they will not approve your expenditure reports until they've received and reviewed your activity reports. Main reason being is they need to make sure that anything you're billing for is reflective within your activity report. So just know that the activity reports are necessary in order for expenditure reports to be approved. So in this case, we're going to follow all the same steps that we did for the activity reports in order to initiate an activity report. You're going to log into your application. Once you're there, you scroll down to related documents and you'll click on initiate related documents. Same box will come up, but instead of choosing activity report this time, you're going to choose women and minorities in construction expenditure report, and you'll choose January 2024. And then you'll click create. When you do that, once again, same thing. It will give you an agree. You'll choose agree, and it'll bring you right into your expenditure report. If once again you guys decided you didn't want to do the expenditure report right away, you can close it out, come back. It'll be in your My Tasks, and you can start it from there as well. But in the end, once you're logged in and you click on the expenditure report, it'll bring you into your document landing page. Once you're at that document landing page, you'll find your forms menu for your expenditure report, which you see here on the right, but it's actually on the left on the report itself. You'll click on NJ Build Expenditure Report, and that'll bring you into the report itself. Your expenditure report is going to look fairly similar to your cost summary within your budget. Your cost summary provides an aggregate piece of detail to how you budgeted your funds. You'll see all the cost categories listed on the left, approved grant amount right next to it, amount expended to date. So once you've submitted reports and asked for billing, it'll list any previous month's billing there. And then you'll see current expenses. The current expenses section is the only section that you'll complete on a monthly basis. Everything else will be pre-populated with information. You'll enter in the current expenses, that current month's previous month's expenses, because remember, you're doing January's report in February and February's report in March, and so on and so forth. Once you enter the amounts, you'll click save. When you click save, the available balance column will change. It'll change based on how much you entered into the current expenses. So if you have 200,000 in related technical instruction and you enter 100,000, it'll now say 100,000 in the available balance. You want to make sure you don't have any negative amounts in your available balance, because if you've got a negative amount, it means that you've requested payment for something that you didn't budget for, and that's not allowable. The budget has to match the way you spend down the funds. If there's a situation where you need to do a budget revision, reach out to us and we can talk to you more about that process. We won't get into that right now because that process is specific to the needs in which you request them. So we'll get into that on a case by case basis with you if need be. But enter your current expenses amounts. If you have no current expenses for the month, you'll just come here. You'll leave the zeros in the current expenses. You'll save the page and you're done with this page. You don't have to do anything further with it. If you have current expenses for the month, you'll come to this page, enter the expenses, save the page, and you can move on to the next page. The next page is a miscellaneous attachments page. It is not mandatory that you provide us with miscellaneous attachments, but you can provide us with any supporting documentation for any of the bills that you've submitted to us. It is expected that you have this stuff on file with your organization. So if we ever need to check with you on something, we can get this information from you. But it's up to you whether you want to submit specific supporting documentation to us. We'll tell you if there's anything that we need you to submit to us. There may be an occasion where we ask you to submit something in miscellaneous attachments, but it's not always going to be the case, and it's not mandatory in most cases. If you have additional miscellaneous attachments, there'll be a plus sign over here next to where you see drag these files. You'll click the plus sign and it'll add another box for miscellaneous attachments for you to enter more. Same as I said for the participant page, don't click the add button at the top of this unless you want to add a page. Usually that's not necessary because there's plenty of space for you to add additional miscellaneous attachments. The miscellaneous attachments do not populate in the next month's report. They'll only be here for this month's report. So next month, any miscellaneous attachments, this will be blank. You'll enter any miscellaneous attachments in the next month's report that are specific to that month's report. You don't have to give me all the previous month's miscellaneous attachments every month. When you've completed entering all the miscellaneous attachments you want to submit and providing us with a description of what that is, you'll click the save button and you'll move on to the next step. The next step is a payment voucher. The payment voucher is going to pre-populate with information right off of what you just entered on your expenditure report. Basically just designates how much money you're requesting, and then you'll check that box for under pay declarations, checking that you certify that the payment voucher is correct and it's in and that the information um, is what you've already provided and that you for services provided and rendered, and that this is the funding that you're asking for. Once you've done that, you can enter a description of the item at the bottom. You do not have to. It doesn't populate anywhere, so it's really just for your own sake. But ultimately, you can enter a description at the bottom. But by checking that box, you're just certifying that the amount's correct. That's what you entered on the expenditure report. You'll save this page, and you're done with the payment voucher. Just for clarification purposes, 'cause I know when we did the contract section, I told you that had to be done by the authorized official. The monthly activity and expenditure reports, excuse me, can be started by either an authorized official or an agency administrator. They can't be started by what we call agency staff. That's the three roles that exist in IGX. There's authorized official, which is like the CEO, agency administrator, which is anybody who you allow to start reports, submit reports, do any type of reporting like that. And then there's agency staff, who are people who you let complete data on things, but they're not allowed to actually submit anything or start anything. In most cases, the majority of the people that we're talking to today will have at minimum an agency administrator role within the database, or the authorized official role. Either of those roles can start these reports, can submit these reports. The only thing that the authorized official is the only person that can touch, and the only person that can save and submit, is the contract section of our documents that we went over today. All right, so that's the payment voucher. The final process here in submitting expenditures is the status options. As I've said and everything else, you scroll down on the menu on the left-hand side within your expenditure report. You'll find status options. You'll choose expenditure report submitted, review required. That will submit this report to your program staff person here at the Department of Labor. They will review it, and if they have any questions or any edits that are necessary, they'll reach out to you individually. If not, they'll approve it, and it'll come to me for final review and approval so that we can get payment made to you by our fiscal department. Okay, same thing here. Once you've changed that status, you'll click the OK button on the I agree page, and both of your reports are now submitted for the month. You're all finished up, and you can now start preparing and working on next month's report. So much fun, I know. I know this sounds repetitive and it sounds like a lot of work. Initially, it is the first month that you're doing a lot of this stuff. It does take a little bit of time. As the months go on, though, it's really just updating the previous month's data. So it's not as time consuming as it seems. I've probably spent more time filibustering and talking about it here than you'll spend actually doing it. You should be collecting this data anyway and have this data ready and prepared to provide to us, because ultimately you're tracking your participants as they go through your program, and you want to make sure that they're successful just like we do. So this process, although it does take some time, and it is a part of the requirements of the grant, and it is something that ultimately we don't have the ability to say, yeah, no, don't worry about it, it's not a big deal. Unfortunately, it is a big deal. So this is the way we track the reports, track the programs to make sure they're successful, and we'll do everything in our power to assist you in any way, shape, or form when you guys have questions or concerns. So with all of that in mind, first thing I'd like to do is make sure that I introduce my team a little bit because I didn't do that initially, and I should have. So, James Manning, who's not with us, he's assistant director over the Office of Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning. My name is Bill Sarbuck. I'm the supervisor of the contracts and programs area within the Office of Apprenticeship. Uh, Lauren Kremper DiFilippo, who will be your technical assistant here on this NJ Build grant currently. Um, she is been involved in NJ Build for many, many years, and a good uh, um, contact for any of you if you have any questions or need any assistance with anything. She'll be the one who reviews your monthly reports currently, and she'll be reaching out to you with any questions and also with the emails in reference to the budget revisions that might need to be done here in the next week or so. And finally, I have two other staff. One, Al Nixon, who's with us here today. Al oversees some of our other grants, but Al's been with us since what is it, last July, Al? So Al's been with us for a little bit here. He's fairly new to NJ Build, but he's been working on some of our other apprenticeship programs, specifically our YTTW Grant and Gains grant. Um, and Al's here and a part of the apprenticeship unit. And then we have one final staff member, Tammy Novitin, who has been with the Office of Apprenticeship basically since it started. She's out right now on maternity leave, so she's not going to be here to assist you with anything currently, but she is a part of the team and an important part of the team. So I wanted to share that information with you. Um, if at any time you guys have questions, needs, concerns, always feel free to email us. Every one of the people I just named to you, other than Jim Manning, will be contacted if you email the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov. Lauren will enter that email into the chat right now in case anybody needs it ever. But ultimately, it's the same email address that you had to notify us with your letter of intent when you were applying. So you should be fairly familiar with it. On that note, I think I will open it up for comments, questions, um, concerns, anything that you guys might have. I don't see anything. We don't have any questions in the chat. I know I didn't do a perfect job of presenting this information because, well, nobody's perfect. But ultimately, we will send to you the user guides that we just went over. You'll have them. You can use them as much as you want. Nobody knows that you're using them, so don't be embarrassed if you're using them every month for the entire 18 months. Secondarily, don't be embarrassed to reach out to us for any questions or any needs, any help that you need at any time. That's what we're here for. As I said, we're all a team in this process, and that's the way we'll work through this process. We'll be here to help you in any way you need, and we ask that you reach out to us and keep us informed, involved, and able to help you in any way, shape, or form as we work through the process of completing these 18-month programs. So let me. I saw something come into the chat, so I want to make sure I answer that. So we have to sign contracts prior to entering participant list and expenses, correct? Yes. We don't want to have you start your reports until we've approved your budget completely. It just makes sense that way, in my opinion. Worst case scenario, I'll have you do a 2-month report instead of having you do a January report. I'll have you do a February report in March that combines January and February. That's worst case scenario. I don't anticipate that being the case. That would really only be the case if we ended up having a whole lot of contract issues. Um, I don't think that'll be the case because once you've submitted it to me, you could start your reports right away. You don't have to wait. It's more
Okay.
about you getting your side done.
Okay, so
Because
after the contracts, then we will move forward.
exactly,
Okay,
and
great.
we'll let you know once we get the contracts. we'll review it right away. As long as everything
Okay.
looks good, then we'll just shoot you an email with the user guides that we just went over and
Okay.
say, please get started on completing your
Okay.
activity
We'll
and
just
expenditure
keep
reports.
everything backlogged until the time comes in.
Exactly. I usually suggest to just have an Excel spreadsheet initially. Sometimes they're easier to even have all long term even, and then you just work off of that
Yeah.
Excel spreadsheet to enter the information into the reports. It really depends on what your comfort levels are, and what other databases you're already using. I know some like Camden County College, you guys might be using something that's internal to Camden County College that might make more sense for you. Same for Mid-Atlantic. I know you guys have been doing programs for many, many years. Apex has been a grantee of ours for a long time, so they're pretty familiar with this. Um, so anything that is works best for you, feel free to use it. I'm never going to tell you that that's not the right way to do it. You do what's right for you in order to be able to enter this information. We can get you these user guides at any time. I'm going to hold off on sending you the activity and expenditure reports right away, but if you want them ahead of time, let me know. That way, if you need to create a spreadsheet or something from them, you'll have the information. You let me know. You just email me and Lauren, and we'll make sure we get it to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Um, any other questions, concerns? Is it possible to get a copy of this recording? Yeah, so we are recording. I will what so Teams is a little weird. You guys probably don't know this, but we use Teams for so many things within our department now that when we record these videos, we can't just share a copy of the Teams recording because ultimately you have to be a part of the team in order to see the recording. So what we do is I share this information with somebody in our IT department here at the department. They create a YouTube video out of it, and then I'll share with you the YouTube video. So yes, I'll get that out to you as soon as they tell me that it's completed, and then you can rewatch this and bore yourselves to death over and over again as much as you would like. Any other questions? And please feel free to share any of this information with anybody else on your team. It's not specific to just you. Just because you were the ones who attended, you can share the video with whoever you'd like, share the slides with whoever you'd like. I don't have any. There's no rules in this. This is not lunch in high school. You're allowed to do what you'd like with the documents that we provide you. Ultimately, feel free to share it any way you need to. Anything else? All right, so I got you guys back 24 minutes of your life. Um, like I said, we'll get the recording internally here ready to be able to send out to you. I'll send that out to you as soon as I can. We'll get out the contract information once we have our calls with you. So initially, you're not going to receive anything from us from this meeting. Once we have those calls with you in reference to the budget revisions and we think you're ready for contract sign off, then we'll send you the contract sign off user guide that I went over. And then once the contract has been submitted to us, then we'll send you the user guides for the activity reports and expenditure reports. It ultimately will help you make sure you don't make any mistakes and do anything before you're supposed to. Obviously, if you want it to create a report or something, just let us know. I don't mind sharing it with you ahead of time. I'm just trying to help to ensure that nobody gets ahead of the game and starts doing something that they shouldn't do. So, like I said, Lauren will be in touch to schedule some times with you probably next week. Um, Hopefully, we can meet next week or the week after to get all those done for the contracts. And then once you get your contracts ready and submitted to us, you can start your activity and expenditure reports. Um, I'll be in touch if we see that we're running into time restraints to where we might need to do a 2-month report in the beginning instead of a 1-month report. I'll be in touch if that ends up happening, but I as of right now, don't anticipate that being the case. Okay. All right. Well, I'll leave it at that without any additional questions or comments coming in. Thank you all. Congratulations once again. We are excited to work with you. Three of the four of you are new grantees to this Women and Minorities grant, which is exciting. Uh, we've had a lot of return grantees over the years in NJ Build, and it's exciting to see some um, new programs and see what everybody else is doing out there, especially in different parts of the state. So I am as and we got a couple of we're kind of spread out a little bit good here. We got a couple of South Jersey, a couple of North Central Jersey. So I'm excited to see how we come out of this and how successful we can be, because I think that NJ Build is a program that really needs to start showing its successes and showing how we can get these women and minorities placed into these positions and working. And um, and I think that, through programs like this, it's the only thing that's really concentrating specifically on specific populations and within specific trades. So I think we can try and see some real positive outcomes from this. But in the meantime, I hope everybody has a good day, and thank you all for your time. Take care.
Thank you.